Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. One of the questions I often get is, can my laser engrave on metal? And for that, there are some you can do with a traditional diode or even a CO2 laser, but we really need to look into the fiber lasers to get into that. And so today we are taking a look at the ComMarker B6. This is the standard edition, it's not the MOPE edition, and the 20 watt version, very kind of an entry level fiber laser for you. So we're going to be taking a look at the features and the specs on this. I'll show you a few projects that I did with it and hopefully help you figure out if this is something that might work in your workshop. So if you're interested in this, want to find out more, stay tuned. I'm going to jump right into it. So as I mentioned, this is part of the ComMarker B6 series. They do actually have two different lines within the B6 series. They have their kind of standard fiber as well as the MOPE fiber. The regular series is black, where the MOPE has the red. So if you're watching other videos on this, make sure that you are watching ones that are relative to this laser, not the MOPE laser, as there are some differences in their capabilities. This isn't the first ComMarker laser we've had in the shop. We have taken a look at the 20 watt B4 series. A little bit of the differences, that one is a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. However, they do have kind of a portable cage, like if you want to use that fiber separately, where this one is kind of intended to work on the base. But this one is lighter, faster, and it has an autofocus feature that we'll get into a little bit later. Some additional specifications on this one. The frequency range of this one is from 30 to 60 kilohertz, and it is rated up to 15,000 millimeters a second as far as the top engraving speed. So that's very quick speed they're getting out of that Galvo style laser. It does come with a single 210 millimeter lens and is stated to have a 0.01 millimeter accuracy. So as I mentioned, this is smaller and lighter than previous versions, and also has a feature where this base and kind of the primary fiber source can be separated. So there is a separate plate here, as you see. I'm lifting it off here, and so this can operate off to the side. They have kind of a protective layer that you would put in between them. This allows you to have this separate from the main unit. You can have your fiber source out in more of a clean area. You could have the laser in more of an enclosure. And also, if you have maybe a less of a height, it does shrink it down by about 4 inches of height, having this separate. Now, they do offer an optional class 1 enclosure for this, and then there's cables to help operate that. And so in dealing with fiber lasers, you do need to be mindful that especially when you're dealing with a lot of metals or maybe a lot of stone, that is going to be ablating that material, and it is going to create fine particulate, and that's going to get into the air. It's best, at minimum, you want to have some sort of air extraction device. I have one that I 3D printed and then just bolt down to the back here. I hooked it up to a air purifier unit that's going to filter that air. Gives me some protection there. Ideally, a full in enclosure would be great, so you should check that out as well if you're considering this for your shop. Now, there are a few different bundles that you can get. You can get just kind of the base laser, that is the laser itself, a few accessories. They do come with a nice set of safety glasses, and these are marked on there. The upper left lens has the rating on there that these are 200 to 450 nanometer and 800 to 1100 nanometer wavelength OD6. Decent, nice to see that on there, that they're actually tested and have that rating written on there. Now, some of the other packages that they have, you can get one that has just the rotary bundle. You can get one that also has their enclosure, as well as the fume extractor that will do the filtering. So different levels. Definitely check out their website. Some of those things may be important to you or not. I would strongly recommend at least the fume extractor. If nothing else, you want to have something that's proactively pulling that air into a filter rather than just loose in your shop. But as far as the rotary bundle, that's going to be really handy and convenient if you're working on like small jewelry or even some tumblers and such. And we'll get into that hopefully in a future video, but we're going to just kind of touch on some of the simple projects you can do with this, as well as we'll jump into a little bit of the build process towards the end. One of the big features that I talked about earlier that is different from the earlier versions is the autofocus. So there are multiple ways to focus this laser, but primarily it's going to be done with the autofocus. So up on top, when you power on the laser, there is a touch panel, and it will come up and have a couple of buttons as well as an autofocus for lift, down, and auto. But first, it does need to get within range. You'll notice when you power it on, there is a little red dot down at the bottom, and that is the spot where it's going to autofocus. So it's not the whole bed, but there's a specific spot more towards the front. So you want to move your material to that, and then it only works within a certain range. So you're going to need to raise or lower that, and that warning will flash on the screen when it's out of that range and disappear when it's within that range. And then you hit the autofocus button, it's going to automatically seek its height to where it needs to be set. So let's jump into what everyone wants to know is how does this work on a variety of materials. So one of the more popular things that people like to do with these lasers is to remove the anodization from aluminum. And so have some of these anodized aluminum business cards. And of course, if you've watched my channel for a while, I really try to get you into the habit of creating material tests. And so this laser hooks up to EasyHead 2 or Lightburn. So I ran all of my work through Lightburn. You do need to have the pro license of that for this to work, but within Lightburn they have a really handy material test tool. And as you can see here, I ran that test on this card, went from 1,000 on up to 10,000 millimeters a second, and from 10 to 100% power. So as you can see, as we got into the higher speeds, the power did drop off, and we had more of a faded image. You could play around with some of the frequency and the delay of that, but I found that at 2,000 millimeters a second and 80 to 100% power, I was getting a pretty good marking on here. Of course, went ahead and ran one of my business cards here. As you can see, came out fairly well. This took about 40 seconds at those speeds, and very crisp. The QR code works just fine, and you could easily batch this out. They do also include a foot pedal, so that if you want to batch projects, you can have it either repeat, or you could have a customized text that it would count up in serial numbers. And then using their grid here, you can bolt in an alignment tool, or you can create your own jigs out of 3D printed material. Make it very fast to kind of replicate things over and over again without having to worry about the setup. You get your jig in place, your fixture in place to align this. Hit the foot pedal each time, it's going to repeat that job. So we can start playing with the images, and I'll try to get this to not focus on me, but there is a Grogu with a Mandalorian helmet. Of course, I am a bit of a sci-fi nerd myself, and so we had to run that. Came out fairly quick. We ran this, I believe, in the Jarvis dithering mode, so worked pretty well, and again, really only took about 30 seconds to do that. Stainless steel is a popular one as well, so ran a test grid again. This one running from, again, 100 to 1,000 millimeters a second, and then from 10 to 100% power. And this was done at 30 kilohertz. So trying to see what we can do as far as ablating stainless steel, getting some colors. We did get some nice brilliant whites all the way down to some browns. It would have the capability to dial in. There's going to be a range in there where you do start to get a few colors. You're going to start seeing some blues, maybe some reds, but we would have to run a number of these grids to kind of dial that in, and then it's going to be very dependent on the thickness and the temperature and the type of stainless steel. So it is possible with this, but that's where you would want to start looking at the MOPA, where you can really dial in that Q pulse and really get a little more consistent color without overheating your material. So but knowing that we could mark stainless steel, went ahead and used one of these little dog tags and put a little Celtic circle on there. This took, I believe, about 15 seconds to run. Again, we were using this at about 1,000 millimeters a second and about 25% power. That's only about an inch in diameter for that design, so very quick thing to do. So customized jewelry, things like this are going to be one of those things that work out very well for this. So another material that works very well with these fiber lasers is acrylic. So I had some black cast acrylic. We were going 100 to 1,000 millimeters a second and only 10 to 50% power. And I found that we were getting a pretty consistent engrave right around 750 millimeters a second and about 30% power. I didn't cut this out on this laser, but went ahead and engraved this little owl onto this heart. And again, this took just a matter of seconds, getting a very nice contrast there. Something that you can do, you would probably need to use another laser, or you need to pre-buy these blanks. That's just not going to have the cutting power that you need, but for personalizing and engraving, works very well. And another fun material to work with is synthetic leather. So this is some of that leatherette type stuff. and so it has a very thin top layer of multiple colors. This one has then a silver layer underneath, and as long as you get your settings right, it'll kind of ablate away that top layer, revealing that secondary color. But if you go too deep, then you're going to get into kind of the backer and the meat of the synthetic leather. And so I ran a couple tests. The first one was a little too fast, from 1,000 to 1,400, and we were only going about 10 to 30% power, and the colors were just a little gray. They weren't looking like they were getting through. So slowed it down, went from 600 to 900 millimeters a second, and then again 15 to 35% power, and found that about 750 and right around 32 to 35% power worked out pretty well. So of course ran another scrap, and we were able to then create a nice little logo. Again, this did not take long at all. This patch is about 3 inches by about 1.5 inches. Has our logo, has the Instagram, YouTube, Facebook logos on there, similar to that business card I showed you. And again, this took about 30 seconds to burn. So the theme here is that it's very quick for doing some just general engravings on a variety of materials. Metals are going to be fairly easy. Most plastics are going to be fairly easy. Synthetic materials like this, fake leather, what you're not going to be able to do with this are things like wood and a lot of fabrics, unless they're synthetic fabrics. They're not going to work as well with this. That's where your CO2 diodes come in. But the fiber laser working well with the metals, and another one being stone and slate. This one I ran at 7,000 millimeters a second, 60 hertz, 50% power, single pass, and took just about a minute to complete this. Now the question with fiber lasers are, I want to do more deeper, I want to do 3D engravings, I want to do deep engraves, what can it do? Well, 20 watt fiber laser will be able to get through some material, but it's going to take longer. I ran a couple tests. Sticking with the slate theme, you can probably see this here. I'm getting the shadows just right on there. That is a Minnesota Vikings team logo. And of course, this is not something I'd sell or anything, but just an interest of mine, wanted to see how that would come out. I ran this at 15,000 millimeters a second, 85% power, stuck it at about 40 kilohertz, ended up doing 256 passes, and again, 0.02 millimeter line interval, which is probably a little bit heavy, but this tile took about 3 hours to engrave. So if we take our caliper and we just check the depth, we are actually at 1.67 millimeter, or about 0.65 inches. Now I also ran a test on a coin. Now this one I only ran about 100 passes. I ran it at 30 kilohertz, 7,000 millimeters a second, and there is some depth there. It's too fine of a detail to test it with that, and realistically I would need to run more passes on this. This took about an hour and a half to do. If I wanted to do a true 3D kind of coin, it's definitely going to be more passes with this one, but it is possible, but it's going to be time consuming. On your typical challenge coin here, that's about 1.25 inches in diameter. Plan on 3 to 4 hours per side, along with when you're done with doing the engraving bit, you can have some kind of cleanup passes go through to help polish, but you're probably going to be doing some hand polishing as well. Another item that we ran is one of these stainless steel flasks, and I just went ahead and ran with the same settings from the coated aluminum cards. So we ran this at about 2,000 millimeters a second, and about 85% power. This engraving here is probably about 3 inches in diameter, and it took about 40 seconds to run. So this is a popular thing, making like wedding gifts, groomsmen gifts, things like that. Definitely something that you could do, and you could do a lot with it, and the detail is going to come out fairly well. All right, so we touched on a lot of what this machine can do, but let's touch a little bit on the build. I know not everybody wants to see that, so I'm putting it more towards the end, and just to give you a little bit of an idea, if you are interested in this one, what the build is like. First off, this comes in well packaged. It was double boxed. There was the shipping box, and then there was more of the retail box. When you get all of that open, there is well packaged. There's a lot of foam in there, and they have a lot of items in their individual boxes. So you're going to want to pull all that out, kind of get it laid out, get an idea of what's there. They label all the bags kind of as to what parts the screws go to or what the items are. They label all the boxes for what they are. So it's really nice to see that. It makes it a little bit easier to work through. The build is fairly simple. You need to just kind of get the tower assembled, and if you were going to be using taller items a lot, or you're going to be using the rotary a lot, you may want to add the included riser in right away. Otherwise, you can leave that out, and then you want to get the tower attached to the plate that's going to hold the laser. You're going to get the laser, the lens and the focus part attached to that, and then you are going to mount the tower to the base. The base then can be added to that the power source module and such, or you can leave it separate like we touched on earlier. And then there's just a matter of attaching your power cord, attaching the USB cable from the tower to the back of the unit, and then plugging in the regular USB cable from the unit to the computer. It's a fairly simple build, not too difficult. They have a pretty decent manual in it. The only thing that I would advise you is, as you kind of get it dialed in, get it lined up, get your one of the first times you get the laser powered on, draw a box and then check how square it is. There's a little bit of give left and right to that tower, and you can kind of just loosen up those screws. Check that it is lining up square with those holes. So maybe put the corner jig in, draw a square so that you have that, frame that up, and then just adjust it to where the tower is in square, and then go ahead and lock those Allen screws back down. That'll help make sure that your jigs work, things are in alignment, and just kind of make it a little bit easier to ensure that you have consistent results if you're doing batch processing. After that, like I mentioned, this does work well with EasyCAD 2 or Lightburn. So if you're using Lightburn, you're going to need to possibly reinstall it. And at the beginning of that, you get the option to install the EasyCAD 2 driver. So you want to make sure that's installed, and then you can go in and auto detect the device in Lightburn. You will need to then add their configuration file and their correction file. Again, just keep walking through that manual. They do walk you through those steps very well, and you should hopefully not have any problems with that. If you are getting this laser and you've run into a few questions, hit them down below. If I can help you, I will. Otherwise, I'll try to get you into a resource that can. All right, so that's where I think I'm going to wrap up this video, trying to keep it just enough to kind of give you a taste of what this can do, give you a few settings to maybe get started. Not done playing with this laser, going to do more with it. We've got that rotary to play with, so we'll be seeing its capabilities, maybe dealing with some small rings on up to maybe some tumblers, and also maybe playing with some more 3D carves, some depth engraves. I know a lot of people are interested in that, want to see that process. Again, it's going to take a little bit of time on one of these 20-watt lasers, but it is doable to an extent, given that you have enough time and that your material isn't too deep, because that laser will eventually get out of focus if you cut in too deep. So if you are curious about what this is capable of, stay tuned, maybe subscribe, and if there's specific things you'd like to see, hey, throw me a comment down below, and if I have the material, or maybe I can source it and have time, I'll try to include that in a future video as well. I will have links to this laser down below. Those will be affiliate links, and that does give a little bit of a kickback to this channel. It also tells the company that you appreciated my information. So I appreciate you using those as you can. It's a great way to support the channel, but as always, no pressure. Just glad I could hopefully give you a rundown of this laser, give you an idea if it might work for you. Anyway, thanks again. I've rambled on enough. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. And again, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. Otherwise, again, we'll be back with more on this laser or other things in the workshop, and I hope to see you then. Otherwise, I hope you get out your workshop and make something too. We'll catch you next time.